The ship was falling. Tejo could feel it in his bones. The metal screamed around him as fire ate through the left wing. Warning lights flashed red. Alarms filled his ears. But he could not move. His body was broken. Through the cracked glass of his cockpit, he saw the moon rushing up to meet him. Arion 7, a dead world of gray rock and frozen valleys. Not the worst place to die, he thought. At least he would not die in the empty darkness of space. The ship hit the ground hard. Tejo felt his ribs crack. Pain exploded through his chest. The world spun. Metal twisted. Glass shattered. Then everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, he did not know how much time had passed. Minutes, hours, maybe days. The cockpit was filled with smoke. Blood covered his face. He tried to move his arms, but they would not listen. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Tejo was a soldier of Earth's United Defense Fleet. He had fought in 12 battles. He had watched friends die. He had killed enemies he never met. War was all he knew for the past 10 years. And now, alone on this frozen moon, he was going to die like the others. He thought of home. He thought of Bazan, the city by the sea where he grew up. He thought of his mother's small garden, where she grew tomatoes even during the darkest days of the war. He thought of the smell of rain on warm streets. He thought of laughter. He had not laughed in a very long time. The fire outside his ship grew weaker. The fuel was running out. Soon the cold would come. Arion 7 was a frozen world. Without heat, he would not last long. Tejo tried to reach his emergency radio. His fingers touched the broken device. The screen was cracked. No signal. No hope. He let his hand fall. There was nothing left to do but wait. Far away, in a hidden valley, Yuna looked up at the sky. She had seen the falling star. But it was not a star. It was a ship. A burning ship coming down fast. Yuna was a healer. Her people, the Valari, had sent her to this moon to study rare plants that grew in the ice. It was quiet work. Safe work. Far from the war that burned across the galaxy. The Valari had been fighting humans for almost 20 years. Yuna did not fully understand why. The elders said humans were dangerous. They said humans were destroyers who spread across the stars like fire. They said humans would kill the Valari if they were not stopped first. Yuna had never met a human. She had only seen pictures. Strange creatures with round eyes and soft skin. They did not look dangerous. They looked weak. But her people said looks could be deceiving. She watched the smoke rise from the distant canyon. Protocol said she should report the crash. Protocol said she should let the military handle it. But something pulled at her heart. What if someone was alive in that wreckage? What if someone was dying right now, alone and afraid? Yuna made her decision. She took her medical bag and walked out into the cold. The journey took 2 hours. The frozen ground cracked under her feet. The wind cut through her thin coat. But Yuna kept walking. She was a healer. Healing was not just her job. It was her purpose. It was who she was. When she reached the canyon, she saw the ship. It was small, a single-pilot fighter. Human design. She recognized it from the training images. This was an enemy ship. Yuna stopped. Her heart beat fast. An enemy. There was an enemy in that ship. Every lesson she had learned told her to run. Every warning from her elders screamed in her mind. Humans were killers. Humans were monsters, but the ship was silent. No weapons fired. No one came out to attack her. There was only smoke and silence. She moved closer. Through the broken cockpit glass, she saw him. A human male. Young, maybe 30 years old by their counting. His face was covered in blood. His chest moved slowly. He was still breathing, barely Yun stood there for a long moment. She could leave. No one would ever know. The human would die, and the war would continue. One less enemy soldier. One less destroyer, but as she looked at his face, she did not see a monster. She saw pain. She saw fear. She saw a living creature who was dying alone, far from his home. Her hands moved before her mind could stop them. She opened the cockpit. She checked his wounds. Broken ribs. Internal bleeding. A deep cut on his head. He needed help immediately. Yuna was strong for her size. The Valari were taller than humans, and their bones were made of different material. She pulled the human from the wreckage and laid him on the frozen ground. He groaned but did not wake. She worked fast. First, she stopped the bleeding. Then she injected him with medicine to reduce the swelling in his brain. She wrapped his chest with bandages from her bag. It was not enough. He needed real treatment. He needed her laboratory. Yuna looked back at the path she had come from. Her outpost was 2 hours away. Could she carry him that far? Could she really bring an enemy into her home? She looked down at the human's face. He was so pale, so fragile, so close to death. "You are my enemy," she whispered in her own language. "My people would kill me for saving you." The human did not answer. He just kept breathing. In and out, fighting to stay alive even though he did not know it. Yuna made her choice. She lifted him onto her back and began the long walk home. The wind grew stronger. The cold bit deeper. But Yuna did not stop. She carried the enemy soldier through the frozen valley, past the ice fields, and into the hidden entrance of her outpost. She laid him on her medical table and looked at what she had done. She had saved an enemy. She had broken every rule her people had ever taught her. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The human lay still on the table. His breathing was stronger now. The medicine was working. He would live. Yuna sat down in the corner of the room and watched him. She did not know his name. She did not know his story. She only knew that she could not let him die. Outside, the wind howled across Ariane 7. The war continued somewhere among the stars. Ships burned. Soldiers died. But in this small room, hidden beneath the frozen ground, a healer and her enemy shared the same air. And neither of them knew that this moment would change everything. Tejo opened his eyes and saw a ceiling he did not recognize. It was smooth and white, made of a material that looked like stone but glowed softly with blue light. He was not in his ship. He was not dead. But he did not know where he was. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest like lightning. He fell back onto the table and gasped for air. His ribs, they were broken. He remembered that now. The crash. The fire. The cold. But he was warm now. Someone had wrapped bandages around his chest. Someone had cleaned the blood from his face. Someone had saved him. A shadow moved in the corner of the room. Tejo turned his head and saw her for the first time. She was tall. Much taller than him. Her skin was pale blue, like the morning sky before sunrise. Her eyes were silver, large and round, watching him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Her hair was white and long, falling past her shoulders like water. She was not human. Tejo's body moved before his mind could think. He reached for his weapon. His hand found nothing. No gun, no knife. Nothing but empty air and bandages. "Do not move," the creature said. Her voice was strange, musical, like wind through bells. But the words were Korean. Broken and slow, but Korean. "You will hurt yourself. Your body is not healed." Tejo stared at her. A Valari. She was a Valari. The enemy. The ones who had bombed Seoul. The ones who had killed millions of his people. The ones he had sworn to destroy. "Where am I?" he demanded. His voice came out weak and cracked. He hated how small he sounded. My outpost, she said. Under the ground. Safe from the cold. Why? The question came out before he could stop it. Why did you save me? The Valari woman tilted her head. It was a strange movement, almost like a bird. You were dying, she said simply. I heal. That is what I do. Tejo did not understand. He had been taught that the Valari were cruel and cold. They showed no mercy. They took no prisoners. Yet here he was, alive, because one of them had carried him from the wreckage. I am your enemy, he said. Your people are killing my people. Yes, she agreed. There was no anger in her voice. No hatred, just truth. And your people are killing mine. This is war. I know this. Then why? She was quiet for a long moment. Her silver eyes looked at him, through him, into some place he could not see. Finally, she spoke. I am a healer. I do not choose who I heal. I see a dying creature. I try to save it. This is my purpose. This is my oath. Tejo let his head fall back against the table. He was too weak to argue, too tired to fight. His body ached in places he did not know could ache. All he could do was lie there and try to understand what was happening. My name is Yuna, the Valari woman said. She moved closer, but slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. I am a medical researcher. I study plants. I am not a soldier. Tejo, he replied. He did not know why he told her his name. Maybe because she had given hers. Maybe because names made things less frightening. Yuna nodded. Tejo, I've heard this type of name in your transmissions. It is a good name. You listen to our transmissions? We all do. To learn your language. To understand your battle plans. She paused. I learned your words from your songs. Your people sing a lot, even during war. Tejo almost laughed. It hurt too much, so he stopped. But something warm moved in his chest. Songs. Of course they listened to songs. His people had always sung, even in the darkest times. It was how they kept hope alive. How bad are my injuries? He asked. Yuna came to stand beside the table. She looked down at him with those silver eyes. 3 broken ribs. Bleeding inside your body. I stopped it. A cut on your head. Deep but clean. You also have bruises everywhere. Your body is very soft. Soft. Compared to Valari. Our bones are stronger. Our skin is thicker. She touched her own arm. You are fragile. Like glass. Tejo wanted to be offended, but he was too tired. How long was I asleep? 2 days. Your body needed rest. I gave you medicine to help you sleep and heal. 2 days. His squad would think he was dead by now. His commanders would have marked him as lost. No one was coming for him. My ship, he said. Is there anything left? Yuna shook her head. Burned. Nothing works. I checked. So he was stuck here. On an enemy moon, in an enemy base, with an enemy watching over him. If his commanders could see him now, they would not believe it. What will you do with me? He asked. Turn me over to your soldiers? Yuna's face changed. It was a small change, something in her eyes. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. No one knows you are here. I brought you in secret. If my people find out, we will both be killed. Tejo stared at her. You hid me? From your own people? Yes. Why would you risk that? Yuna looked away. Her silver eyes found the wall, the floor, anywhere but his face. I do not know. I only know that when I saw you dying, I could not walk away. Something inside me would not let me. The room fell silent. Tejo watched her, trying to understand this strange creature who had saved his life. She did not act like an enemy. She did not talk like a monster. She seemed afraid and confused, just like him. "Thank you," he said finally. The words felt strange in his mouth. He had never thanked the Valari for anything. But it was true. She had saved him when she did not have to. She had risked her life for a stranger. For an enemy, Yuna looked at him. A small smile touched her blue lips. "You are welcome, Tahoe of Earth." She brought him water and a strange food that tasted like sweet bread. He ate slowly, his body weak and clumsy. She sat nearby and watched him, answering his questions when he asked them. She told him about the outpost. It was old, built many years ago for research. Now only a few scientists lived here, studying the frozen plants that grew in the ice. She told him about the moon, Arion 7, and how it sat in the space between human and Valari territory. Neutral ground in theory. But the war respected no borders. Tahoe told her nothing about himself. He was still a soldier, even broken and wounded. He could not share secrets with the enemy. But as the hours passed, something shifted inside him. Yuna was not what he expected. She was gentle and curious. She asked him about Earth, about human food, about why humans had hair on their faces. Her questions were innocent, almost childlike. He found himself thinking that maybe, just maybe, not all Valari were monsters. But even as that thought formed, another voice whispered in his mind. A darker voice. A soldier's voice. She might be kind, it said, but her people are still your enemies. And you are still at war. Tahoe closed his eyes and tried to sleep. But the war followed him even into his dreams, and he knew that this strange peace could not last forever. Somewhere above them, ships burned in the darkness of space. Soldiers killed and died. The war continued, uncaring and endless. And in the quiet of the underground outpost, a human and a Valari waited for what would come next. The days passed in the underground outpost. Tahoe grew stronger. His ribs began to heal. The pain in his chest became easier to bear. Yuna's medicine worked better than anything he had known on Earth. She checked on him every few hours, changing his bandages, giving him more medicine, bringing him food and water. She was careful and gentle, treating him like something precious. It confused him. He was the enemy. Why did she care so much? They talked more as he healed. At first, he said very little. He was still a soldier. Information was a weapon, and he would not give weapons to the enemy. But Yuna asked so many questions, and her curiosity was so pure that he found himself answering despite his training. "What is Earth like?" She asked one evening. Tahoe thought about it. "Blue," he said finally. "From space, it looks blue. Water covers most of it. We have oceans very large, larger than anything you can imagine. We have water on our home world too," Yuna said. "But it is underground. We live in caves and tunnels. The surface is too hot. You live underground? Always?" "Yes, we come up only at night when the sun is gone." She smiled softly. "The first time I saw the sky of this moon, with all the stars, I sat and looked for hours. It was so beautiful." Tahoe watched her face. There was wonder in her eyes, like a child seeing something magical. He had never thought about the Valari as people who could feel wonder. To him, they had always been weapons, enemies, things to destroy. But Yuna was not a weapon. She was just a person, living her life, trying to find beauty in a universe at war. He shook the thought away. He could not afford to think like that. Not now. As his body healed, Tahoe began to explore the outpost. It was small, built for maybe 10 people. Long hallways connected round rooms. Everything was white and smooth, like the inside of a shell. The light came from the walls themselves. a soft blue glow that never hurt his eyes. Yuna let him walk around, though she asked him to be quiet. The other scientists did not know about him. He was still a secret. "How long can you hide me?" he asked her one day. "I do not know," she admitted. "Days, maybe weeks. If the supply ship comes early, we will have problems." "And then?" She did not answer. They both knew what would happen if he was discovered. The Valari did not take prisoners. He would be killed, and Yuna would be punished for hiding him. Taeho thought about escape. His ship was destroyed, but maybe there were other ways off this moon. He began to pay attention to the layout of the outpost. The doors, the exits, the locations of the other scientists. He was a soldier. Even wounded, even lost, he could not stop thinking like one. One night, Yuna left to check on her experiments in another room. Taeho was alone. He looked around the room and saw her computer terminal on the desk. The screen was on, showing strange symbols that he did not understand. He knew he should not touch it. He knew it was wrong. But the soldier in him could not resist. He walked to the terminal and looked at the screen. The symbols meant nothing to him at first. But then he noticed something familiar. Numbers, coordinates. A map of space thought his heart beat faster. This was not research. This was military information. Battle plans. Fleet positions. Supply routes. Taeho stared at the screen. His hands shook. This information could change the war. If Earth's commanders knew where the Valari ships were, they could attack first. They could destroy the enemy before the enemy destroyed them. He looked toward the door. Yuna was still gone. He could copy the information. He could find a way to send it to Earth. He could save his people. But if he did that, Yuna would be discovered. She would be killed for letting this happen. She would die because she saved him. The choice tore at his heart. Duty told him to take the information. Honor told him to protect the woman who protected him. He could not do both. Taeho stood there for a long time, frozen between two worlds. When Yuna returned, she found him sitting on a medical table, staring at the floor. She knew immediately that something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. He looked up at her. His face was hard, but his eyes held pain. "I saw your computer. The military files." Yuna's silver eyes went wide. Fear crossed her face like a shadow. "You saw?" "Yes." She took a step back. Her body tensed, ready to run. "What will you do?" Taeho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, slowly and carefully. "If I was a good soldier, I would take that information and find a way to send it to my commanders. It would save human lives. Maybe millions." Yuna's face went pale. Her blue skin became almost white. "But if I did that," Taeho continued, "you would die. They would know someone helped me. They would find you and kill you." "Yes," she whispered. "They would." Taeho stood up. He walked toward her slowly until they were face to face. She was taller than him, but in that moment, she seemed small and fragile. "You saved my life," he said. "You carried me through the cold. You healed my wounds. You hid me from your own people and risked everything." She nodded, unable to speak. "I cannot repay that by getting you killed." He let out a long breath. "I will not take the information. I will not betray you." Tears formed in Yuna's silver eyes. They did not fall like human tears. They floated for a moment like tiny crystals before sliding down her cheeks. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Taeho shook his head. "Do not thank me. I am still your enemy. I still want my people to win this war, but I will not win it by hurting you. That is not who I am." They stood in silence for a while. The weight of what had just happened hung in the air between them. Something had changed. The wall between them had cracked. Not broken, but cracked. "Why did you have that information?" Taeho asked finally. I did not know it was there, Yuna said. My terminal is connected to the main military network. I am supposed to report any human activity I see. I never use those files. I do not care about the war. You do not care who wins? She shook her head. I only care about healing. About saving lives. The war takes lives. It does not matter which side wins. Everyone loses. Taeho thought about her words. He had spent 10 years fighting. 10 years killing and watching friends die. He had told himself it was for Earth, for his home, for his people. But had he ever stopped to ask if there was another way? No, he had not. Soldiers did not ask questions. They followed orders. They fought until they won or died. But here, in this small room, with this strange alien woman, he began to wonder if maybe the war was the real enemy. Not the Valari, not the humans, but the war itself. It was a dangerous thought. A thought that could get a soldier killed. But once it entered his mind, he could not push it out. Yuna wiped her eyes. You should rest. Your body still needs time. Taeho nodded. He returned to the medical table and lay down. But as he closed his eyes, he did not think about escape or duty or war. He thought about Yuna, about her kindness, about her tears. And he wondered, for the first time in 10 years, if peace was possible. Outside the outpost, the frozen moon turned slowly through space. The stars burned cold and bright. And somewhere in the darkness, ships prepared for battle. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Two enemies shared the same room, the same air, the same fragile hope, and that was enough. After the night of the discovery, something changed between Taeho and Yuna. The air felt different. The silences were no longer uncomfortable. They had shared a moment of truth, and that truth had built a small bridge between their worlds. Yuna noticed that Taeho looked at her differently now. Before, his eyes had been hard and careful, the eyes of a soldier watching an enemy. Now they were softer, curious, almost warm, but she also noticed that he seemed troubled. He spent long hours staring at the walls, lost in thoughts he would not share. He ate less. He slept poorly. Something was eating at him from the inside. One evening, she sat beside him and asked a question she had been afraid to ask. What burdens your heart, Taeho? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, but it was a sad laugh, without joy. You learn our language too well. That is exactly how my mother used to ask that question. Your mother? Yes, she is still on Earth, in a city called Bizin, if the Valari have not bombed it yet. Yuna felt pain at his words. Her people had bombed many human cities. She did not know the names. She did not want to know. But hearing Taeho speak of his home made the war feel real in a way it never had before. Tell me about her, she said softly. Tell me about your home. Taeho was quiet. She thought he would refuse. But then he began to speak, and once he started, he could not stop. Bizin is a city by the ocean. The water is blue, like your sky here, but deeper. It changes color with the weather. On stormy days, it turns gray and angry. On sunny days, it sparkles like diamonds. He smiled at the memory. His face changed when he smiled. It became younger, softer. My mother has a small garden behind our house. Just a few plants. Tomatoes, peppers, green onions. She tends to them every day, even during the war. Even when the bombs fall, she goes out to water her plants. She says if she stops, then the war has won. She sounds strong, Yuna said. She is the strongest person I know. Stronger than any soldier. My father died in the first year of the war. His ship was destroyed near Jupiter. My mother did not cry. She held me and said that tears would not bring him back, but living well would honor his memory. Yuna listened carefully. She had lost people too. The war had taken her brother 2 years ago. But her people did not talk about death the way Taeho did. They did not share stories of the ones they lost. They simply moved on, as if the dead had never existed. Humans were different. They carried their dead with them. They let the pain shape them. What else do you remember? She asked. Tae-ho closed his eyes. I remember the underground shelters. When the bombing started, everyone went underground. Hundreds of people in dark tunnels, afraid and tired. But do you know what we did? What? We sang. Children, old people, soldiers, everyone. We sang songs our grandparents taught us. Old songs about love and hope and mountains. The walls shook from the bombs above, but we kept singing. Because as long as we sang, we were still alive. Still human. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes again. She did not fully understand human singing. The Valari did not have music like humans did. But she understood what it meant. It was a way to fight the darkness without weapons. Your people are very strange, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You are soft and fragile. Your lives are short. Your bodies break easily. Yet you keep fighting. Why? Why not just surrender? Taeho opened his eyes and looked at her. There was fire in his gaze now, something burning deep inside. Because surrender means our children forget what the sky looks like. It means our songs disappear. Our stories die. Everything that makes us human fades away until there is nothing left. He shook his head slowly. We do not fight because we think we can win. We fight because the alternative is worse than death. Yuna did not know what to say. She had been taught that humans were dangerous because they were violent, because they attacked first, because they spread across the stars like a disease. But now she understood. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they would not give up, ever, no matter how much pain they suffered, no matter how many losses they took. They kept standing up. It was terrifying and beautiful. I did not know, she whispered. My people say humans are destroyers, that you kill without reason, that you feel nothing. Taeho laughed bitterly. We feel everything. That is our problem. We feel so much that it drives us mad. We love too deeply. We hate too strongly. We cannot let go of anything. Not our homes. Not our families. Not our dreams. He turned to face her fully. Do you know why I became a soldier? No, because I saw what the Valari did to my planet. I saw the cities burning. I saw children dying in the streets. I was 18 years old, and I swore that I would make your people pay for what they did. Yuna flinched. His words hurt, but she did not look away. For 10 years I fought, Taeho continued. I killed your soldiers. I destroyed your ships. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that I was protecting Earth. He paused. But now, sitting here with you, I am not so sure anymore. What do you mean? You saved me. You, a Valari. You risked everything for an enemy you had never met. If you can do that, maybe not all Valari are monsters. Maybe not all of this war is black and white. Yuna reached out and touched his hand. Her blue fingers wrapped around his brown ones. The contact was strange. Her skin was cooler than his smoother, but it felt right. I do not think you are a monster either, she said. I think you are just a person, caught in something bigger than yourself. Like me. They sat together in silence, hand in hand. The outpost hummed softly around them. The frozen moon turned through the endless night. Maybe we are both fools, Taeho said finally. A human soldier and a Valari healer sitting in a cave, pretending the war does not exist. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But I would rather be a fool with you than a wise person alone. Taeho looked at her. Something shifted in his eyes. Something warm. Something that scared him and excited him at the same time. "You are a strange alien," he said softly. "You are a strange human," she replied. And for the first time in 10 years, Taeho did not feel alone. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if they would survive. But in that moment, sitting in the soft blue light with Yuna's hand in his, he felt something he'd forgotten how to feel. Hope. Not hope that his side would win the war. Not hope that the enemy would be destroyed. But hope that maybe, somehow, there could be peace. Real peace. The kind that came from understanding, not from victory. It was a small hope. Fragile. Easy to break. But it was there. And that was enough to keep him going. Outside, the stars burned on. The war continued. But inside the outpost, two people from different worlds held hands and dared to believe in something better. And the universe, for one brief moment, held its breath. The peace did not last. It never does. Commander Doksu arrived at the outpost without warning. His shuttle landed on the surface of Ariane 7 3 days after Taeho had made his promise to Yuna. No one knew he was coming. That was how Doksu operated. He liked to surprise people. He liked to catch them in their lies. Doksu was a tall Volari with dark blue skin and eyes like black stones. He had served in the Dominion military for 40 years. He had killed more humans than he could count. He hated them with a cold, patient hatred that never wavered. When he walked into the outpost, the other scientists had stood at attention. They were afraid of him. Everyone was afraid of him. Yuna felt the fear grip her chest when she heard his voice in the hallway. She had hidden Taeho in a storage room behind the medical bay. He was still there now, waiting, unaware of the danger. "Researcher Yuna," Doksu called out. His voice was smooth and cold. "I would like to speak with you." She walked to meet him. Her heart beat so fast she thought he could hear it. "Commander, I was not expecting you. That is the point." His black eyes studied her face. "There was a crash on this moon 8 days ago. A human fighter. Did you see it?" Yuna's throat went dry. "I saw the smoke. I reported it to the network." "Yes, you did. But when our soldiers went to investigate, they found the wreckage empty. The pilot was gone. Perhaps he died and was buried in the ice." "Perhaps." Doksu took a step closer. He was much taller than her, and his shadow fell over her like darkness. "Or perhaps someone took him." Yuna forced herself to stay calm. "Who would do such a thing? We are scientists here. We have no use for prisoners. That is what I am here to find out." Doksu turned to his guards. "Search the outpost. Every room. Every corner." Yuna's blood turned to ice. "The storage room. If they searched the storage room, they would find Taeho. And then they would both die. She had to warn him. But how? Doksu was watching her every move. The guards spread out through the outpost. Yuna could hear their heavy footsteps echoing in the hallways. They opened doors. They looked in cabinets. They searched with the patience of hunters. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Then the scream came. One of the guards had found the storage room. Yuna heard a crash, followed by shouting. Then silence. Doksu's eyes narrowed. He walked toward the sound, and Yuna followed, her legs shaking. When they reached the storage room, they found the guard on the floor, unconscious. Standing over him was Taeho. He had taken the guard's weapon, a slim energy rod that the Volari used for close combat. He held it awkwardly but with determination. His face was hard, his eyes sharp. He was no longer the wounded man Yuna had found in the wreckage. He was a soldier again. Doksu stared at him with disgust. "A human, here, in our outpost." He turned to Yuna. "You did this. You brought him here." Yuna stepped forward. "He was dying. I could not leave him. He is the enemy. He is a living creature. Doksu's face twisted with rage. You are a traitor to the Dominion. You will be executed. And this human will die screaming. 3 more guards appeared behind Doksu. They carried weapons. They were ready to fight. Taeho looked at them. He was 1 human against 4 Valari soldiers. He was still weak from his injuries. His ribs had not fully healed. The odds were impossible. But he did not run. He did not surrender. Yuna, he said without looking at her. Get behind me. Taeho, no. There are too many. I said, get behind me. She moved. Something in his voice told her not to argue. Doksu laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. Look at this. The human thinks he can fight us. Does he not know what we are? Does he not know how many of his kind I have killed? Taeho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. I know exactly what you are, he said. You are afraid. The words hit Doksu like a slap. His face went dark with anger. Kill him. The first guard rushed forward. He was fast, faster than any human. But Taeho was ready. When Yuna had healed him, she had taught him about Valari bodies. She had shown him where they were strong and where they were weak. She had not meant for him to use the knowledge this way, but he had listened carefully. He moved to the side as the guard swung his weapon. The blow missed. Taeho brought his energy rod up and struck the guard in the joint of his arm, exactly where the nerve cluster was. The guard screamed and dropped his weapon. Taeho kicked him in the chest, and he fell. The second guard attacked from the left. Taeho ducked under the swing and drove his elbow into the guard's throat. Valari throats were softer than their skin. The guard choked and stumbled back. The third guard was smarter. He stayed at a distance and tried to shoot Taeho with a pulse weapon. But Taeho was already moving. He rolled behind a storage crate. The pulse hit the wall and left a black burn. Yuna watched in amazement. She had never seen anything like this. Taeho fought like water, flowing from one movement to the next. He was outnumbered, outmatched, but he refused to fall. The Valari had been taught that humans were weak, that they were slow and soft and easy to kill. But Taeho was none of those things. He was fast. He was smart. He adapted to every attack. He was human. And that made him dangerous. Taeho grabbed the fallen guard's weapon and threw it at the third guard. The guard dodged, but it gave Taeho time to close the distance. He hit the guard twice in the ribs and once in the head. The guard collapsed. Doksu stood alone now. His guards were all on the floor. He had not expected this. None of them had. What are you? Doksu demanded. His voice shook with something Yuna had never heard in him before. Fear. Taeho stepped forward. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. His breathing was heavy. His ribs screamed in pain. But he did not stop. I am a soldier of Earth, he said. I have fought your kind for 10 years. I have watched my friends die. I have buried my father. I have lost everything. He pointed the energy rod at Doksu's chest. But I am still standing, and I will keep standing until my heart stops beating. That is what humans do. We do not give up, ever. Doksu's black eyes went wide. For the first time in his long life, he understood why the Dominion feared humans. Not because of their weapons, not because of their numbers, but because of something inside them. A fire that never went out. You are a monster, Doksu whispered. No. Taeho lowered his weapon. I am just a man who wants to go home. He turned his back on Doksu. It was a sign of disrespect. A sign that he did not see the commander as a threat. Doksu's face twisted with shame and rage. He reached for his hidden blade. Behind you. Yuna screamed. Taeho spun. Doksu's blade slashed through the air. Taeho caught his wrist, twisted, and threw him to the ground. The blade clattered across the floor. Tae-ho put his foot on Doksu's chest. He looked down at the commander with cold eyes. "I could kill you right now," he said. "You deserve it. After everything your people have done, everything you have taken from us." Doksu said nothing. He waited for death, but Taeho stepped back. "I am not you. I do not kill helpless enemies. That is the difference between us." He turned to Yuna. "We need to go. Now, he will call for reinforcements." Yuna nodded. She did not look at Doksu. She could not. Together, they ran from the room. Behind them, Doksu lay on the floor, humiliated and broken. He would hunt them. He would never stop. But for now, they were free. They ran through the outpost, past the rooms Yuna had called home for 3 years. Past her laboratory. Past her small sleeping quarters with the pictures of her family on the wall. She did not look back. There was no time for goodbyes. Taeho followed her through the winding hallways. His chest burned with every breath. The fight with the guards had reopened some of his wounds. Blood soaked through his bandages. But he kept moving. Pain was just a feeling. Feelings could be ignored. "Where are we going?" he asked. "There is an old shuttle," Yuna said. "Hidden in a cave 3 hours from here. It was used by researchers before the outpost was built. No one uses it now, but it should still work." "Should?" "I do not know for certain. I only saw it once 2 years ago." Taeho wanted to laugh. Their entire plan depended on a shuttle that might not even fly. But it was better than staying here and dying. They reached the exit of the outpost. Yuna opened the door, and the cold hit them like a wall. The surface of Arion 7 was frozen and dark. The temperature was far below what any human could survive without protection. Yuna handed him a thermal suit from the emergency cabinet by the door. It was designed for Valari, but it would work. Taeho pulled it on quickly. The material was strange, thin but warm. It fit loosely on his smaller body, but he did not complain. "Stay close to me," Yuna said. "I know the path. The ground is dangerous. There are cracks in the ice that go down forever." They stepped out into the frozen night. The moon was beautiful in a terrible way. The sky was black, filled with more stars than Taeho had ever seen. The ground stretched out in waves of gray and white ice. Everything was silent. There was no wind, no sound, nothing but the crunch of their footsteps. They walked for an hour without speaking. The cold pressed against them from all sides. Taeho's breath formed clouds that froze on his mask. His fingers grew numb despite the suit. Behind them, lights appeared. Searchlights from the outpost. Doksu had called for help. The hunt had begun. "They are coming," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, but Taeho could hear the fear beneath it. "How far to the cave?" 2 more hours. "Maybe less if we move faster." Taeho looked back at the lights. They were moving across the frozen ground, spreading out like fingers. The Valari knew this moon. They knew every path, every hiding place. It would not take them long to find the trail. "We need to go faster," he said. They ran. The ice cracked under their feet. The cold cut through their suits. But they kept running, because stopping meant death. After another hour, Yuna began to slow. She was not a soldier. She was not trained for this. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like stone. "I cannot," she gasped. "I cannot keep going." Taeho stopped beside her. He looked at her face. Her blue skin had turned pale. Her silver eyes were dim with exhaustion. "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "You carried me through this ice when I was dying. Now I will carry you if I have to. But we are not stopping." "Why?" she asked. Tears froze on her cheeks. "Why do you keep fighting? Even now?" Tejo took her hand. "Because giving up means they win. And I did not survive this long to let them win." He pulled her forward and they started moving again. Slower now, but still moving. The searchlights grew closer. Tejo could hear the distant hum of engines. They had vehicles. Fast ones. The gap was closing. "There," Una said suddenly. She pointed to a dark shape in the ice ahead. The cave. It was barely visible, just a crack in the side of a small mountain. They ran toward it, their bodies pushed beyond exhaustion. Behind them, the searchlights turned in their direction. Someone had seen their movement. They reached the cave and pushed inside. The entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for one person at a time. Tejo went first, pulling Una after him. The darkness swallowed them. Inside, the cave opened up into a larger space. And there, covered in dust and ice, was the shuttle Dot. It was old. Very old. The metal was dented and scratched. The windows were cracked. But it was a shuttle. Away off this moon, Una ran to the control panel and brushed away the dust. She pressed buttons. Nothing happened. "No power," she said, her voice breaking. "The battery is dead." Tejo felt his heart sink. They had come so far, fought so hard, and now it was all for nothing. But then he saw something. A small solar panel on the side of the shuttle. It was connected to a backup system. "Wait," he said. He climbed onto the shuttle and found the emergency switch. His father had been an engineer. He had taught Tejo about ships before the war. It was knowledge Tejo thought he would never use again. He flipped the switch. The panel hummed. A small light appeared on the control panel. "Try it now," he said. Una pressed the buttons again. The shuttle groaned. The engine coughed. And then, slowly, it came to life. "It works," she whispered. "It actually works." Tejo jumped down from the shuttle. "Get inside. I will open the cave." The entrance of the cave was blocked by ice and rocks. Tejo found a heating torch in the shuttle's emergency kit. He aimed it at the blockage and fired. The ice melted. The rock shifted. A path appeared, leading out to the frozen surface. Outside, the searchlights were almost at the cave. Tejo could see the shapes of Volari soldiers moving toward them, now. He shouted "YUN" and powered up the engines. The shuttle rose from the ground, shaking and groaning. Dust and ice fell around them. Tejo ran to the open door and jumped inside. The shuttle tilted, nearly throwing him out. He grabbed the handle and held on. "Go!" he yelled. "Go now!" The shuttle shot forward. It burst out of the cave like a bullet. The Volari soldiers fired at them, but their shots went wide. The shuttle climbed higher and higher, leaving the frozen moon behind. Tejo watched through the window as Arion 7 grew smaller. The searchlights faded. The soldiers became dots. And then there was only stars. Yuna flew the shuttle toward the edge of the moon's gravity. Her hands shook on the controls. She had never flown anything before. But she kept going, because there was no one else. "Where do we go now?" she asked. Te-Ho moved to the navigation panel. His fingers found the coordinates for neutral space. A place where neither humans nor Volari controlled. A place where they might find safety. "There," he said. "The jump point. If we can reach it, we can disappear." Behind them, Volari ships appeared on the scanner. They were fast. Much faster than the old shuttle. "They are following us," Una said. Tejo looked at the distance to the jump point. It was close. Very close. But the ships were closing faster. "Can this shuttle go faster?" he asked. "I do not know. Maybe." Tejo found the engine controls. He pushed them to maximum. The shuttle screamed in protest. Warnings flashed on every screen. but it moved faster. Faster than it was designed to go. Faster than anyone thought possible. The jump point appeared ahead of them. A swirling gate of light in the darkness of space. The Valari ships fired. Tejo grabbed Yuna and pulled her down as the shots passed over the shuttle. One hit the wing. The shuttle shook. "Hold on," he shouted. They hit the jump point. Light surrounded them. The universe stretched and twisted. And then they were gone. The Valari ships stopped at the edge of the gate. They could not follow. The chase was over. In the silence of hyperspace, Tejo and Yuna floated in the damaged shuttle. They were alive. Against all odds, they were alive. Yuna looked at Tejo. Her silver eyes were filled with wonder. "We made it," she said. Tejo nodded. He was too tired to speak. His wounds hurt. His body was broken. But he was smiling. They had escaped. And somewhere ahead, a new future waited. A future they would face together. The shuttle drifted through hyperspace for 2 days. Tejo spent most of that time sleeping. His body had finally given out. The fight, the run, the escape, it had taken everything he had. Yuna watched over him, changing his bandages, giving him medicine, keeping him alive. When he finally woke, they were floating in neutral space. Stars surrounded them on all sides. No Valari ships. No human patrols. Just silence and light. "Where are we?" Tejo asked. His voice was weak, but his eyes were clear. "Safe," Yuna said. She sat beside him, her silver eyes tired but relieved. "I found a small station nearby. It is run by traders from different worlds. They do not care about the war. They only care about profit. And they will help us? For a price. I have credits. Enough to buy fuel and repairs. Maybe enough to send a message to your people." Tejo sat up slowly. His ribs still hurt, but the pain was less now. He looked at Yuna. She had saved him again. She had flown a shuttle she did not know how to fly. She had left everything behind for him. "Thank you," he said. The words felt too small for what he wanted to express. Yuna shook her head. "Do not thank me. We saved each other. That is what matters." They docked at the station. It was a strange place, full of creatures from different worlds. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked almost human. They walked through the crowds, keeping their heads down. No one paid attention to them. Just 2 more refugees in a galaxy full of lost people. Tejo found a communications terminal. He sent a coded message to Earth's fleet, using frequencies only soldiers knew. He told them he was alive. He told them he had important information. He asked them to send a ship. Then they waited. 3 days passed. Yuna and Tejo stayed in the small room at the station. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. She told him about her home world, about the underground cities where her people lived. He told her about Earth, about the oceans and mountains and forests. They were so different. Their bodies were different. Their cultures were different. Their histories were different. But when they talked, those differences did not seem to matter. On the 4th day, a ship arrived. A human ship. Tejo recognized the markings. It was from Earth's 3rd fleet, his fleet, his people. He stood at the window of the station and watched the ship dock. His heart beat fast. He had dreamed of this moment for weeks. The moment he would return to his own kind. But now that it was here, he felt afraid. What will they do to me? Yuna asked. She stood behind him, her voice small. I do not know, Tejo admitted. You are Valari. They might see you as a prisoner. An enemy, I know. He turned to face her. I will not let them hurt you. I promise. You saved my life. I will protect yours. Yuna smiled softly. You have already protected me. More than you know. They walked together to the docking bay. The human ship opened its doors, and soldiers stepped out. They were armed and ready. Their eyes were hard. Tejo stepped forward. "I am Sergeant Tejo of the United Defense Fleet. I am the one who sent the message." The soldiers looked at him. Then they looked at Yuna. Their hands moved toward their weapons. "The Valari comes with me," Tejo said firmly. "She is not a prisoner. She is a friend. She saved my life." The soldiers hesitated. One of them, an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. She was a commander. "Sergeant Tejo," she said, "we thought you were dead. Your ship was destroyed weeks ago. I survived. Because of her," he pointed to Yuna. "Without her, I would be frozen on Ariane 7. The commander studied Yuna with careful eyes. "A Valari who saves humans. That is unusual." "I am a healer," Yuna said. She spoke in Korean, slow but clear. "I do not choose who I heal. All life has value." The commander was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "We will take you both to Earth. The Council will decide what happens next. But for now, you are under my protection." She looked at her soldiers. "Lower your weapons. These two are not enemies." The soldiers obeyed. Tejo felt the tension leave his body. They were safe. For now, the journey to Earth took 2 weeks. Tejo spent most of that time preparing for what would come. He would have to explain everything. The crash, Yuna, his choice not to take the military information. He would have to defend her in front of people who had spent 20 years hating her kind. When the ship entered Earth's orbit, Tejo looked out the window. There it was, his home. Blue and green and beautiful. "It is lovely," Yuna whispered beside him. "Yes," Tejo agreed. "It is." They landed at the military base near Seoul. Soldiers surrounded them as they walked down the ramp. But the commander kept her word. No one touched Yuna. The days that followed were long and difficult. There were meetings, interviews, investigations. Tejo told his story 100 times. Each time, he defended Yuna. Each time, he explained that she was not an enemy. Some people believed him. Others did not. But slowly, attitudes began to change. Yuna stood before the United Council on a cold morning in winter. The room was full of important people. Generals, scientists, politicians. They all stared at her with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Tejo stood beside her. He had been allowed to speak on her behalf. "This woman saved my life," he said, his voice strong and clear. "She had every reason to let me die. I was her enemy. My people had killed her brother. But she carried me through the frozen ice and healed my wounds. She risked everything for a stranger." They looked at the council members one by one. "If she can show mercy to an enemy, maybe we can too. Maybe this war does not have to go on forever. Maybe there is another way." The room was silent. Then the oldest member of the council, a man with white hair and tired eyes, spoke. "What do you suggest?" Tejo took a deep breath. "Let her live among us. Let her teach us about her people. Let us learn that the Valari are not all monsters. And maybe, one day, we can use that knowledge to find peace." The council discussed for hours. In the end, they voted Yuna was allowed to stay on Earth, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. The first Valari to ever be welcomed by humanity. News of her spread across the galaxy. In the Dominion, whispers began. Other Valari started asking questions. If Yuna could live with humans, maybe the war was not necessary. Maybe they had been wrong about the enemy. It was not peace. Not yet. The war continued. Ships still burned. Soldiers still died. But something had shifted. A small crack had appeared in the wall of hatred. And cracks, given time, can bring down the strongest walls. Months later, Taeho and Yuna stood on a hill outside Seoul. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Below them, the city glowed with lights. What happens now? Yuna asked. Taeho looked at her. She was still strange to him. Blue skin, silver eyes, a being from another world. But she was also the person who had saved him, the person who had given him hope. Now, he said, we keep fighting, not with weapons, but with truth, with kindness, with the belief that things can change. Yuna smiled. That sounds very human. Taeho laughed. It was a real laugh, full of warmth. Maybe you are becoming a little human yourself. She took his hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin, but it felt right. Maybe I am, she said. They stood together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The stars came out one by one. Somewhere up there, the war continued. But down here, on this small hill, two people from different worlds held hands and believed in something better. Humans did not just survive, Taeho thought. They inspired. And Yuna, standing beside him, felt that inspiration in her heart. The future was uncertain. The road would be long, but they would walk it together, and that was enough.